Good afternoon from sunny England and sunny England. I've just been chatting to a lady in America who was sunny morning, but it's afternoon there. So you're South Coast, are you? London,
Bedfordshire, so
oh,
I'm in the
Bedfordshire. Okay,
Midlands.
because when we met last was at your event in the dark side down in Brighton, which is always a pleasure to go to Brighton. So we'll talk about that a bit later because I think you have I think more planned, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So because I always start these right at the beginning, how you got into writing, and you are oh, I should say who you are. I'm hello. Let's start again. Okay. Good afternoon from sunny England, Buckinghamshire and Bedfordshire, and I'm delighted to introduce blogger. Everything to do with writing, lives and breathes writing, as we most of us do, and now crime writer, published crime writer Donna Morfett. Morfett. Yes, I'm just telling myself that's not right, but it is right.
I've been called
Anyway,
worse.
okay. So yes, so we start at the beginning and how you got into writing. Obviously, I'm guessing, being a reviewer first, that you have always been an avid reader. Have you always read crime, and is that why you chose to write crime? And what can you remember what the first thing you actually wrote, whether it be at school or thereafter, what it
Um,
was?
so yeah, I've always been a reader. Loved reading since I was able to read. I remember being upset if I missed my chance to read to the teacher at school when I was
Oh,
5.
bless.
So I
Oh,
really have always loved reading.
mm,
Um, I wrote the first thing I remember getting feedback on was a horror story I wrote for I think GCSE English.
mm,
And I think it was longer than it was supposed to be, which I think is quite common for people that end up being writers.
mm.
And my teacher said that it was really creepy and she wanted to know more. So that's
Okay.
something I
Well,
remember.
that's always a good sign.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
I'd love to get in contact with her, but I can't find her, which is
Oh.
strange. She's got quite a strange name, but anyway.
Mm,
So, but then I never really done anything with it. Um, I carried on reading. I sort of done the Stephen King thing when I was a teenager. And then I bought books in supermarkets, as you do when you're sort of that age, you don't know any difference, like Lee
mm,
Child, Kathy Wrights, and then those sorts of people.
mm.
But that sparked my love of crime, but also forensics. Kathy Wrights and Tess Gerritsen. Kathy Wrights in particular because she actually does the job.
Mm.
So she says quite clearly that her books are absolutely not based on what she does in real life because I guess that's a data protection issue, but
Mm.
she does the job. And she went to, is it Kosovo where they had the mass graves and she helped
Yeah.
identify people by their bones and stuff. So I think she's written a non-fiction book about that, which I've read as well. So I'm absolutely fascinated. And I learned about
Mm.
the body farm, which apparently when I was talking to the cleaning lady in work, isn't a really normal thing to be interested in. And she kind of backed away when I spoke to her about it. And she thought I was a bit weird, which I thought was kind of hard, but
Yeah. You just
yeah,
find people. You just find people who are your kin.
yeah.
Some
And
people aren't, but there are a lot of us who are.
yeah, bless her.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so yeah, I done all of that. And then I think like most people, lockdown happened. So I worked in retail, so I was furloughed, which is the best,
Mm.
whatever, however long of my life. It was awesome.
Mhm.
I was still doing my degree, but I was just finishing the second year as lockdown happened. So I had from like May to nearly the end of September to fill my time with.
Mm.
And that's really when I started blogging. I wasn't really a blogger or a reviewer until then.
Okay. Yeah.
I was a reader always, but I never really knew about reviewing like most people, even now trying to get people to review. But I didn't
Mm.
know either that Facebook and Facebook groups. I think I was part of UK Crime Book Club already, which is the biggest group, but I had to look for others. And then I learned about indie authors, about self-publishing, about arts and all those sorts of things. And it opened a whole new world. I discovered Harrogate and had FOMO for the first time because I was like, wow, this sounds awesome.
Mm. Harrogate sounds
And all
very.
those things. Yeah. So, and then I think as I went weirdly, the third year of my degree, I thought, oh, no, now's the time to start writing a book.
Mm.
So I done NaNoWriMo in November. I think I did it in November 2021, actually. That's the first time when I really started to sit down and write. And I did actually write my 50,000 words by the end of the month. It was a good way. I think it's like 1,667 a day.
It's
not that bad.
1,167, yeah.
Yeah. Which I found I could do, but I also realised that you're writing to write the words, not necessarily writing. So although it's a good way to get you to write 50,000 words, quite a lot of them will end up getting binned because they're rubbish.
But the thing is, it's out of your brain, isn't it?
Yes.
If it's in your brain, if you're anything like me, I have to get it down on whether it's dictating it into my phone or I get it out before it wings. So your degree is creative writing, or is it something?
Forensic science.
Ah, brilliant. Which you can use in your writing.
Yes.
Wow. So 3 years out of how many?
Well, it took me about 4.5 in the end to do it. The first year I done part-time. And then the next 2 I done full-time, and then I failed a unit because it was locked down. So I had to do 1 unit again. So it took me like another, whatever, it's 6 months or something. So I graduated in March sometime, a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So do you think you use that for more than writing? Well, because it's a big commitment from time and expense to.
Probably not.
Okay.
Most people think that people do forensics to be a CSI, but you don't need a degree, and the money's rubbish. So that was never my intention anyway. Plus, obviously, it's a 24/7 job. You know, you could be pulled out in the early hours in the morning and stuff, and the pressure.
Yes.
You know, you have to be at that crime scene. You have to get everything spot on. You can't miss anything. Because people's lives are at stake. So I was like, it's too much pressure for me. I can't be doing that.
But what a grounding though for writing crime stories.
Oh, yes. And it was great fun. It was hard. It was harder than I expected. There's a lot more science than I expected, which I should have realised. And because I'd done it as a mature student, it's been a long time since GCSE science. I did
it's remembering how to learn again.
Yeah, and I found that my brain didn't want to learn science again. Just did not want to learn science at all. I didn't care. And I could not force my brain to care about like atoms and stuff. Done what so that was
do you find that having done your degree course that it's given you a good what's the word I'm looking for your routine for writing discipline? Has it given you a once you finish that? Oh, okay.
I kind of started writing to distract from having to do my dissertation.
Right.
So I wouldn't recommend doing that, to be fair, but I don't really have a routine. I don't have any kind of, you know, I just write as and when. I've never been, I'm in a room with like.
It's okay, don't worry.
So yeah, no, it's the short answer.
Right. You write when you're able, when life doesn't get in the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you? We've obviously covered the genre that you like. Would you consider other genres, writing other genres?
I'd
go back to horror again.
Well, I've sort of got a YA horror, which is really kind of how I started writing, but there's a whole thing about it, and it's a bit sort of complicated. So I've still got that written, but it needs rewriting, and I've progressed as a writer anyway, so even I can see that it needs work. So I'd like to release that one day. I'd probably self-publish it, but no, I'd like to stick to crime. I've loved it. It's my genre. So yeah, but I'd love to write cozy crime, but my mind's stuck at the moment. I can't seem to. I couldn't hold back at the minute. I can't seem to be able to hold back to not write it too dark. And I'd love to do dystopian as well. I love the near future stuff.
So if you've got so many ideas running around your head, do you tend to work on more than one thing at once? So if you get stuck on, you just prefer to sit with one at a time?
Because if I didn't, I wouldn't finish it.
Okay.
I know how my mind works, so.
That's my trouble, because I work on several things at once. I've got so many. You know, if I had a physical bottom drawer, they'd be full of little sections of I've done 10,000 here and 20,000 here, and in one of my cases, a 48,000 that I have never done anything with. And I've got a 100,000 word serial killer that was going to be, I call it my Eric Morecambe novel, because it was going to be a trilogy, and then I decided to shove it all into one, but it didn't work because obviously there's the trilogy, there are different things happening in each one. And so it's at the moment it's 100,000 words that I need to split out again and work out. So my Eric Morecambe novel, though, so I say it's got all the right words, but not necessarily in the right order, because I have to pull out different things. And also there were sort of two main things. There was a serial killer and a snuff gang. So I kind of wonder whether I'm going to end up writing two sort of semi-threaded series that pick one from. Anyway, that's for another time.
Yeah, I just write notes on my phone because obviously I have the ideas. So yeah, I just write them down and I have to ignore them because otherwise
go with the shiniest of them all, the shiniest object. Yeah. So having grown up reading and being such a massive reviewer of you probably don't know how many books you've read and reviewed over the years, hundreds, thousands. Do you find, because you must as a reader know what works and doesn't work in the way of writing?
Yeah,
so even though you haven't written a huge amount, you must have come to writing with a certain knowledge of that works and characters like this and so on and so forth. So I think it makes it easier.
I didn't realise I had actually, and then I asked David Mark for help, who is sort of not necessarily a teacher, but he does help creative writing. And I sent him my book, one of the very earliest drafts, and his first thing was, "You are such a student of pulp fiction," and he didn't really tell me about the pacing or the plot structure or anything, because obviously I must have, through reading so much, I've just picked up. He didn't really tell me to rearrange anything or anything.
That's good.
Yeah, just little things, but so I didn't realise, but by years and years of reading, I've been picking it up.
I think it must have subconsciously. So tell us how you got published.
So as far as I was concerned, my book was finished around May 2023. Was still so last year, and I sent it out on submission. Done the whole rejection thing for ages. I sent it to agents. I sent it to most publishers. Most agents said no straight away, pretty much, as they replied at all. And most publishers said no. I still not heard back from some, but that was fine. And then on New Year's Eve 2023, I got an email from Rampart Books, and they said that they were willing to publish my book. It was about 8 o'clock in the evening, and I was sitting watching the TV with my mum. And I was just looking at this email, like, I didn't know whether to laugh or to cry, and just like, oh my God.
Bit of both.
Yeah, because I think Rampart and another couple of others were my last ditch in December. It was only 2 or 3 weeks until they replied. So it was my last ditch, and I was thinking, then perhaps this book's not good enough. It's not the one.
It's just not for them. That's the thing. Especially if someone like David as David Mark has given you such high praise, or at least I wouldn't say not high praise, but to the point where he hasn't pulled it apart and said you need to do this, that, and the other, then that's a huge achievement.
Yeah,
especially for the debut novel.
Yeah, exactly. And Graham Bartlett, the police advisor, he loves it. He loved it from the beginning. He hasn't read the sort of revised version either, but he loved it as well. So his support as well gave me the confidence to think, I know that it's not a bad book, but perhaps it just isn't right. I know procedurals are hard to sell.
Because I think in a lot of cases with agents and publishers, if your book is similar to something they have already, especially with agents, if they've got an author already who's too similar, or because it's the fine line, when you finished a book, they say, oh, we want another one exactly like that but different. So they want another author like the ones they've got already but different. So how do you know what to write and how to be and so on and so
Yeah,
forth? So
exactly. Yeah, you don't do
yeah,
it. It's impossible.
no.
It really
So
is.
how did you find the editing? You obviously self edited, and then when you submitted it, did they want changes making as well?
They did, yeah. Self-editing, I hate with
Yeah, I'm not
every
a
fibre
fan.
of my being. I
Yeah.
despise.
Give
I
me
like the
anybody else's.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. Love it. But
Mm,
yeah, mine. I like the first edit. You've written the first draft and you do the first edit. That's fun
mm,
because it feels
mm,
like you're actually, creating a story properly then.
mm.
And then anything else, that's hell. And then they didn't make too many changes. There were some little ones that irritated me, and I didn't realise. I was like, "Oh, I'm not precious. It's fine. I don't
Mm.
mind." And then actually, I realised I was precious about a few things.
The thing is,
So
it's your baby.
yes,
It's while you kind of hope that an editor and a publisher will want it to be the best that they feel it is, it's still your book. It still needs to have your voice.
yeah. Well, and it was. I mean, there's some quite personal things in there, and one of the characters is based on a real person.
Mm,
And the editor wanted to change her profession, and I
right.
didn't see many logical reasons to do it. And I was
No.
like, this character, there's a bit that she had sort of a monologue where she described what happened to her in the past and why she's doing what she's doing. I said,
Mm,
all of that is true. If that's
mm,
true, then at least give her the profession that she really wanted to be as a child. You've
yeah.
changed it
Yeah.
from a air stewardess to a teacher. There didn't really
Okay.
seem any logical reasons. It didn't
No.
affect the story. So I'm like, take it back,
No. So
please.
you were able to stand your ground and
Oh
yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
keep it. Yeah. And were you given a choice of because you have a very striking cover? Do you have you don't you're at work, aren't you? So
Yeah.
don't suppose you have a copy with you.
No,
Um,
no.
that's all right. Well, your biography has the Amazon link to it, so people can go and see the cover. So were you given a choice of covers when you okay? But you were happy with the one they offered you.
I was from the off. Yeah, I really liked
Mm,
it. Although I
mm.
must admit, it did take me 2 or 3 weeks to realise that the thing on the front that was on fire was a car. I
Okay.
don't know because I looked at it because it was all new and exciting, and I looked at it so many times, and then one day I was like,
Mm,
oh, "That's a car."
mm,
I think that says more about me.
right.
It is important to the plot. It does make
Yes.
sense, but yeah, that's just me. I think.
But I know of authors, especially with animals, there isn't a dog in the book, and yet there's a dog on the cover. And when you're with a publisher, I mean, you could say if that were the case, if there wasn't, if something the cover was so unrepresentative, it doesn't do you any favors as the author. But equally, you have to hope that the publisher knows what they're doing. That it will as it is. It's striking that people will see it for what it is. And I haven't obviously I don't go and have a look at reviews as such, but I just know from Facebook because we're friends on Facebook and friends of hundreds of friends of Facebook. Um, I keep seeing how people are responding so well to your book, which is fabulous. It's always lovely to see, but when you know somebody, it's especially a first novel, it's fabulous. So what's the marketing split? Does your publisher do marketing for you? And obviously you still have to do your own.
They do a little bit. I'm not really exactly sure what they do. They do some ads. I've seen
Mm,
some, but they
mm,
don't do a lot.
right.
But I mean, it's not really a problem because, like you say,
Mm,
with so many people know who I am and stuff. It's not
yes.
really been an issue. So
No.
I've done
No.
a takeover in a friends group on publication day, and she
Mm.
messaged me. She said, "Not only have you taken over my group, said you've taken over Facebook." She said, "All I see all over Facebook is your book." And I was like,
Yes. I think when it came out, that was all I was seeing as well.
yeah,
Which is wonderful. It's wonderful, and it's just more than anybody how what a supportive and loving industry it is. You have the odd wouldn't say bad apple, but somebody who just they're so concentrating on what they're doing, and they get jealous with other people's success. But as a rule, we don't, do we? Because we know how hard it is to go from nothing to something, and
yeah,
we're still working on the something.
yeah.
Um, and we have so many people to support us.
Exactly, and that can be anyone from someone that's just setting out themselves to people like Mark Burnham who've had all the success. Basim Khan, I would say, is one of the biggest supporters. He's doing everything. He's the head of the CWA now, or whatever his title is. Yeah, he has time for me always if I want, if I need him. He made me revise my elevator pitch because he asked me what it was about, and I wanted to really ask me, so I told him, it's like, yeah, no, you need to work on that.
Yeah, so many writers. I'm in author ad school, Brian Cohen's author ad school, which is all about, well, it started off all about Amazon ads, but it's more than that. It's covers and everything else. It's a really great group, and because I do my own Amazon ads, which is not easy, because you have to know who to target and how much to bid for and so on and so forth. There's a whole nother conversation. And they say that that I forgot what I was going to say now. We were talking about it's so supportive. It's literally gone out of my brain. But yeah, it's just it's a tough to know what to get right, and but it's a fabulous industry.
Yes, it is.
Very, very supportive.
I wish I'd found it sooner in some ways, but I always say that by reading books, it's changed my life completely. Really, because I found my tribe. That's what people say, especially festivals. But I found my tribe.
Yeah.
And when I'm at festivals, I'm at home. That's it. That's where I belong.
When I left school, well, when it's careers day at school, I was told, because I was female and I wasn't the most academic there, as they said, well, really, most girls go into, this was in the, what would it be, early mid 80s, and they said, well, most girls go either into nursing or to be a secretary. You're not clever enough to be a nurse, so go and be a secretary. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I ended up being a secretary. And serial data, which is, I always do this, point the wrong side, which is up there. I wrote that for my third NaNoWriMo, and I did 115,560 words in a month, just because it all spilled out and I could type really quickly. So I suppose I should thank my careers advisor for telling me to go and be a secretary, because it meant I typed really quickly. And I'm quite good at organising. So there we go. So what's next? Do we have is Peter Markham Mark II, or?
So it's so Peter Markham is very vaguely based on someone real. And the reason I wanted to write the book is to kill him. It's not really a secret anymore.
Yeah, I had a next door neighbour like that. He often appeared in some of called something else, obviously, but yeah, he's been bumped off numerous times. My former neighbour, I moved, thankfully.
Yeah, someone said this to me, and I was like, So yeah, that's going to happen. It's going to repeatedly get killed off. There's a different one. So the series is the Chorus Knitting, which is my DI. So book 2 draft, the first draft is written. I've been leaving it for a while, so but I'm desperate to go back to it and start rewriting. And then after that, I'll hate it again. I don't know if I want to see it again. So the first draft is written, so I just need to start editing and then see what we get from it.
And that's so have you done your first edit? Have you've got the nice bit okay, so that's the nice, the one the round you like.
Yes.
And then yes.
Yeah. Where
and will that go to the same publisher?
They have first refusal anyway.
Okay.
So yeah.
You got a 2-book deal.
No, it was only a 1-book deal actually.
Oh, okay.
But they get first refusal on the second in the series.
Yeah.
So if I wrote something completely different, then I wouldn't give it to them.
Sure.
Because it's the second.
No, it makes sense. If you're happy with them, it makes sense to see what they think. And then you still have the choice to go yes or no, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm only tied down to them for that 1 book. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Brilliant. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll let you get back to work and have the rest of your lunch. So no, it's been an absolute pleasure, Donna. Thank you. And when's your next dark side? Have you got that? The dark, because it was the dark side of Brighton. Will it be the dark side of Brighton again?
Yes,
you're looking at venues, weren't you?
Yeah, I was looking into Bournemouth, but I think I'm going to stick with Brighton. And I'm looking at the end of April after Easter.
Okay.
I was looking the other day. So yeah, it's looking like April, end of April.
Right. Well, I shall keep an eye out for the date, and we'll have a weekend down in April. We have nothing else planned, literally till next August. My niece is Tim's niece is getting married in August, so that's it. So we have a nice clear. Other than I have an event locally in a couple of weeks, which would be fun. That's a crime, Denise Beddoes crime
Okay.
quarterly, Chiltern Crime
Oh,
Quarterly, which will be fun.
I've got loads. I've got
Yeah.
bloody
Oh, I
spotlight.
bet. I bet. Yes.
They are the
No, I
spotlight.
should. I'm hoping to do Crime Fest in May. I haven't booked it yet, but that's the hope is I do that in May.
I've applied to
So,
do that as an author for the
oh,
first
have
time.
you?
Yeah, I just missed it, I think, this year.
Right.
So next year I've applied to do that as an author.
Oh,
So
well,
yeah, you're
fingers
guaranteed
crossed.
2 panels as a debut as well. So
Wow.
um,
Brilliant. So that means you can't have your next one published until after you've done that, maybe.
possibly or
If
maybe
they,
before, maybe.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think it matters. One person that done it this year she's got about 6 books.
Oh, okay. That's
It's just
okay.
because it's her first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a new voice. We call it because I help out at a local literary festival here called Beacon Lit in July, and we always have a new voices. I think that's maybe what Theakston calls it as well. We have new voices panel. So
Yeah,
yeah, brilliant. Well, I'm so pleased for you. So pleased for and it's always interesting knowing that Peter Markham is based on a real person. So I wonder if that person knows who they are. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you because when you've got friends who writers, readers, or otherwise who know that you write, and if they read your work, I'm sure some of them will go, I wonder if that's me, or and that some of them think that they're them, not necessarily Peter Markham, but yes, I'm sure
I'd
some
love
of
it
them
if he did.
think.
I'd love to
Right,
send it to him, but that's the
right,
thing, isn't it? But I'd love to send it to
right.
him. It's got the same first name, different stuff. Because
Okay,
I don't want
okay. Well, should he be
to.
watching this? You never know. One day. Anyway, it's been a pleasure, always a pleasure, and I'll
Always.
see you in April, if not before. But we'll come back in October, November, and hopefully with a live audience. So I shall sit in the background and let them take over and talk more about the disappearance of Peter Markham.
Yes, and
Now
I shall.
available in on Amazon and where all good books are sold.
Yes.
Thank you, Donna. We'll
Thank you.
speak soon. Okay. Bye bye.